Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Susanna Gurr and I'm the Managing Director at the BC Centre for Employment Excellence. On behalf of my colleagues at the Centre, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's presentation showcases a unique model of job developers collaboration in the Greater Toronto Area. I will tell you more about the presentation and presenters in a few minutes. Before we begin, please take a moment to answer the poll on your screen. If you are participating with a colleague or in a group, please select the most appropriate or common answer. We will close the poll in a few minutes or so and let you know the results. For those of you who are not familiar with the Centre, it was created in 2012 with funding from the provincial and federal governments to act as a research and knowledge sharing organization for BC employment service providers and employers. The Centre's mandate is not only to do innovative research, but also to find ways to share best practices with BC practitioners and employers and to better integrate evidence into practice. We created this webinar series as a way to reach out and connect with practitioners. Through this series, we have highlighted new research by the Centre, but are also tapping into the knowledge and expertise within the employment services community. You're invited to view the video recordings of previous webinars that we have posted on our website. Okay, the results from our poll are in. Wow, I've never had something that's almost this clear. The question with regards to job development, do you believe that collaboration is possible in a competitive environment? As you can probably guess, I leaked out the answer as 100% yes. That's a great way to launch into our webinar. Today's webinar features CASIP, which stands for Consortium of Agencies and Colleges Serving Internationally Trained Persons. CASIP has developed an employer services network collaborative services model sharing job leads and clients across agencies in the Greater Toronto Area. It is a unique model of job developers collaboration in a highly competitive environment. This model, representing a collaboration of 11 organizations that deliver employment services, has been successfully implemented in Toronto and will be available for replication in other regions. The presentation will provide an overview of the model's concept and tools. I think all of us on this webinar recognize the importance of partnerships and collaboration in job development and its benefits to service providers, employers, and job seekers. I'm looking forward to learning about the model from our presenters and benefiting from their insights. It is now my pleasure to introduce our two presenters from Toronto. Irene Waxman is a newcomer services manager at JVS Toronto, part of the CASIP Operational Leadership Group and a job developer supervisor within the CASIP Employer Services Network. Irene has a background in education and HR with a master's degree in human resources management and many years of experience in adult education, ESL training, and recruitment. She oversees newcomer employment services at the JVS North locations that include programs such as Job Search Workshop and Enhanced Language Training for internationally trained professionals in different occupational fields. She is actively involved in local immigration partnership and other community-wide initiatives. Sadia Khan is the project manager for CASIP at Access Employment, a community-based employment services agency that provides a comprehensive range of services for both employers and job seekers. Sadia's involvement with the nonprofit and public sectors spans over 16 years, during which time she has been involved in project delivery in various capacities in a variety of sectors, including employment services, health, education, and public administration. Sadia has worked for the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, the University of Toronto, and the Government of Canada. She holds a BSc Honours from the University of Toronto and a certificate in nonprofit management from Montreal University. Before we start, I should note that the presentation will last approximately 40 minutes with a good amount of time for the Q&A session. We strongly encourage you at any time during the presentation to use the questions feature on your dashboards to submit any questions or comments you may have for our presenters to address during the discussion period. This will be facilitated by my colleague, Greg. I know the presenters would love to engage in discussions with you and to exchange thoughts on this area and other common interests. And now it's my pleasure to hand the microphone over to Irene and Sadia in Toronto.
Thank you very much, Susanna. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Irene from Toronto. I'm joined by my colleague, Sadia, here. And we're very happy that you're joining us this afternoon. We can't boast of such beautiful weather here, but we will do the best with what we have. So we're here to tell you a little bit about the model that was created here in the Greater Toronto Area by the Consortium of Agencies Serving Internationally Trained Persons. We will share with you the experience, we will share with you the way the model works, and we will be very happy to answer any of your questions at the end. So the Employer Services Network, a model of job development coordination. A little bit of background about CASIP. So CASIP is a consortium of independent community-based agencies and colleges who deliver employment and training services to internationally trained job seekers and to employers in the GTA. We have been working together since 1998, and we share our experience, expertise, and resources to improve service delivery. It actually started as a small collaboration of a few agencies. I think there were 5 at the beginning, eight at the beginning, who decided to form this collaboration to explore opportunities on how to enhance service delivery together. So today, together we serve over 70,000 newcomers per year, and some of our organizations have been doing this for over 60 years. For example, JVS has been around since 1947.
Sure. Hi, this is Sadia, and I'll just add to that all of our 11 member organizations provide services to all under and unemployed Ontarians in the Greater Toronto Area. But under the umbrella of CASIP, the organizations collaborate to support skilled immigrants in particular to find work that's commensurate to their experience and education. So that's what has brought us together, but everybody independently does serve all under and unemployed Ontarians in the GTA.
Yes, absolutely. So all the agencies, and you can see the names of the agencies here, 11 agencies altogether today are members in the network. And it didn't start with all 11 agencies on board. It started smaller, and then others have joined in along the way. And as Sadia pointed out, we provide a whole variety of services through our agencies. Some of our agencies are very big, and they have multiple locations around the city. But the common ground on what we are collaborating around is providing services to internationally trained professionals and ensuring internationally trained professionals receive more opportunities through working with employers and educating employers, advocating on behalf of our clients who are internationally trained to provide more opportunities for them. So our vision, what do we really want to achieve? We want to enhance inclusive Canadian communities where skilled newcomers are able to find meaningful, sustainable employment in their fields of expertise and contribute to building our society. And as we said, this is actually what brought us all together. We want to create more opportunity. We want to create a stronger ground, a stronger organization of all of us together to be able to achieve this vision and this goal. We want employers to be able to integrate internationally trained individuals and build a diverse work environment using immigrant skills to best advantage. So part of our vision is also working with employers, defining employers as our clients as well, and helping them, equipping them, informing them about how to better integrate international talent into the workforce. Our mission is that through collaboration, CASIP drives innovation, advocacy, and excellence in employment services for skilled immigrants and employers in the Greater Toronto Area. We want to create a stronger voice. Together, we mean more than each organization alone, and this is what we are trying to leverage. We're trying to create a stronger representation for newcomers through our collaboration, and we want to be able to make a stronger impact for employers and for the benefit of our Canadian society if we work together. So this slide shows what are some of the things that our agencies do individually and what we do together. So individually, as we started mentioning, all our agencies provide a full suite of employment services and support. Almost all organizations offer sector-specific bridging programs. They're usually Ontario-based. I'm not sure if there's something similar that exists in British Columbia, but we have quite a large variety of bridging programs for internationally trained professionals in a variety of fields. They usually include some kind of a partnership with an educational institution that provides a hard skill component for those newcomers to help them get better education and be better equipped with the local requirements of their profession. For example, it can include specific software for accounting, or it can be a specific course for architects, or something that really leverages their knowledge and helps them better integrate into the local environment. We all offer language training opportunities. Some of our organizations combine settlement services with employment services, so some of our organizations have link schools and have language training for newcomers. Other organizations have enhanced language training programs, occupation-specific language programs, so we're big on that as well. And we provide referrals to additional programs and services. Again, many of our organizations have a whole variety of different services, and they co-locate in welcome centers, and they work together with other organizations, not necessarily members of CASIP. So this is what happens individually. What we do together is we create strategic partnerships. As I mentioned before, we're trying to create a stronger voice that can advocate on behalf of newcomers, that can create a stronger case to employers in terms of understanding the value of the talent that's coming into the country and understand how this talent can benefit their businesses. So this is what we're doing together. We have the coordinated job development network in our employer services network that we're going to elaborate more on. We do joint marketing initiatives. We create marketing materials. As you see on the screen on these slides, this is part of our marketing effort. We do joint professional development, and it happens on different levels. It happens on the level of our job developers who are part of the network. We have about 22 job developers in the network today, and they attend regular professional development sessions. And we also recently introduced a new professional development opportunity for middle management on creating leaders of the future who would incorporate more of a collaborative approach to leadership. And as mentioned before, we do advocacy, different advocacy initiatives together. Thank you. And information sharing. So as we mentioned, we consider employers on board with us, and we work with them as basically we consider them our clients as well. So what are the services that we offer to employers? We offer full suite of human resource services, and this includes everything that has to do with recruitment and retention. And I'm assuming that this would be similar to any employment service provider, regardless of what province they're coming from. Employers work with us, and we work with employers in terms of trying to find the best fit for their company and making sure that the person has the skills the employer is looking for, and that they would work out in terms of fitting into their environment. We pre-screen job-ready professional candidates. We function as a coordinated access point to diverse and qualified talent pool. Our core group is 20 plus job developers, 22 to be more precise. We conduct monthly meetings and we have a job sharing website. We have over 70 job developers in the expanded network, and we provide training incentives for employers to hire candidates. And many of our agencies have sector-specific specialization based on the different programs that we offer that attract clients in a certain field, and that's why we would develop the relationships with employers in a certain sector, in a certain professional field. So what I would like to elaborate here a little bit more on is that the monthly meetings and the job sharing website, the whole collaboration happens through the infrastructure that we have in place, which is the website. And what happens on the website is that we share the job opportunities, and we have a function there that allows our job developers to submit resumes for those job opportunities. And then the monthly meetings are another chance for job developers to discuss it further, to bring up any concerns or to any points that need to be further discussed. So this creates some kind of a more human component as opposed to only having it through the website. Just as a tip, infrastructure is great, and having this all set up so that people can submit resumes and they can see the employment opportunities on the website, but I think the combination between the meetings in person and the opportunity to do it through the technology, this is really something that sets this whole system apart.
And it's very much a part of the trust building, which Irene's going to touch on a bit later in the presentation. So tailored recruitment, networking, and mentorship events is also something that we offer to employers. And we have a hotline and a website, as mentioned before. What do we offer to job seekers? Again, we offer a full suite of employment services and supports, and those include, of course, employment counseling, job development, career counseling in many cases. So we would help clients with creating a successful resume, targeting their resume to specific positions, preparing them for interviews. So the whole range of services that newcomers to Canada need in order to feel confident and to start building their career. As we mentioned before, sector-specific bridging programs in a range of fields, and those include IT, finance, healthcare, engineering, HR, on and on, lots of bridging programs. Language training opportunities, again, these range from some organizations that offer link services to occupation-specific language training, again, for a variety of sectors. Many of our agencies are part of TRIAC partnership, which has the TRIAC mentoring partnership, which is another collaboration between the different agencies here in the GTA, helping newcomers to be matched with a mentor in their field through a structured program that follows the course of a few months, and then the results are being reviewed. We also offer coordinated access to additional programs and services. So this would mean referrals to other organizations if needed. So now we come to the very essence of our presentation, which is actually the employer services network and how it works. So the way it all started is that CASIP members identified common challenges in delivering services. What we identified and what we understood that employers are not aware too much of the internationally trained talent pool, and they were also lacking strategies of hiring and retaining this population. So basically speaking, many of the employers were reluctant to hiring newcomers because they simply didn't want the headache, they didn't want the trouble of hiring people they were not sure will work out. Many of them were not familiar with hiring newcomers, and that's why they just didn't go that route.
So that we identified that as a challenge, simply informing employers and raising their awareness of the opportunity of hiring newcomers. The second challenge that we identified was decentralized employer intake. And again, I'm not sure how it works in British Columbia, but here in Toronto, we would hear from employers that the same employer would receive a call from job developers from different organizations offering similar things and trying to build relationships and trying to offer their clients. If an employer was looking for a service provider, they also didn't really know where to look, and they would be very confused looking at all these different organizations and not knowing where to go and which organization to pick. And we understood that there was low brand recognizability or legibility, meaning employer services provided through organizations that are working with newcomers. How do we make it into a brand that employers can recognize and can go after and can work with?
I'm just going to add here that a point that I'd like to highlight is that this was not a funder-mandated collaboration. We weren't told to start working together. The membership actually identified those needs and issues and came together to see what could be done about it. So just an important point.
Very important. Okay. And this brings us to poll number 2. So we would kindly ask you to answer the following question. In the job development process, who do you consider to be the client? Is it the job seeker? Is it the employer? Or is it a mix?
So we'll have about a minute or so to have everybody respond to the poll, please, and then I think we'll get a look at the answers and we'll proceed. Should have inserted some music at this point, like Jeopardy.
We can sing.
Stage is yours.
Hi everyone, it's Greg here at the center, just jumping in to share the results of the poll. I believe everyone, I'm not sure actually if you've seen the results, so I'll just try to share those right now. And Sadia and Irene, I don't think you can see the results here, but 5% of folks said the job seeker, 12% said the employer, and the large majority, 84%, say it's not black and white, it's a mix. So there you go. I just want to remind folks that more than welcome, as always, to submit your questions through the questions box. We haven't had any come in yet, so I think we'll probably move along with the presentation. Oh, I just see one that has come in, so just hold on a second here. So, Sadia and Irene, there's a question about funding. How did you seek funding for CASIP, and how is the consortium supported financially? So that's the only question that's come in to this point. Actually, there's a second one that someone just submitted. So maybe following that question, you can, if you wouldn't mind clarifying what you mean by job developer, so maybe your own definition for what a job developer does, and then we'll proceed with the presentation. So I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
So I'll respond to the first question about funding. The Employer Services Network project came out of a collaboration between CASIP and TRIAC, which is the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council, and it was the initial project was funded kind of as a short-term thing, and that set up the ESN, and then CASIP applied to Citizenship and Immigration Canada for a larger pool of funding, and they were awarded a 2-year project from 2011 to 2013 to really build out the employer services network. And we were renewed for an additional 3 years of funding through CIC through 2016. So it is a funded project. CASIP has other funded projects as well, but we're here to talk about the ESN, so I'll limit my answer to the ESN. And the second question was the definition of job developer, so I'll throw that over to Irene.
Thank you, Sadia. So the job developer is kind of a mutually agreed term among the CASIP agencies, although within the different organizations the title might be different. In some organizations it's called, the position is called employer liaison. In other places it might be called a workforce specialist or an employer services specialist. But basically this is the person who's in touch with the employers. This is the person who advocates on behalf of the client and who is trying to produce placements, either paid or unpaid, but this is the connecting point between the client, the organization, the client meaning the job seeker, and the employer. So these are the people who are out there building relationships with businesses, with organizations, and trying to promote placements for job seekers.
And they're largely distinct from employment counselors, which are the ones who are client-facing and counseling the clients, doing career exploration, job search, help, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we will move on. So after discussing all the challenges that the organizations identified, these are some of the solutions that ESN, Employer Services Network, is trying to provide. So first of all, recognizing employers as clients. And it's interesting that breakdown of the percentages in terms of recognition of employers as clients is that we see that 12% of respondents of our poll said that employer is a client, as opposed to only 5% identifying a job seeker as a client. So it means that a lot of us understand that, especially in today's environment, we can't really deny the fact that employers are also our clients, that we need to be able to understand the employer's needs, to be able to cater to employers' needs for the sake of helping, in our case, newcomers with employment. If we're not attentive enough, if we're not able to listen to employers, if we're not able to satisfy employers, we will not be able to create successful placement opportunities for our job seekers. So another solution, coordinate job developers across CASIP members to centralize employer intake and share postings. So this eliminates the situation that we described before, that the same employer is being contacted by multiple organizations offering the same services, or the same employer trying to contact different organizations, not really understanding where to go specifically. Through the Employer Services Network, there is a website, there is a centralized process for employers who would like to hire internationally trained professionals. They can enter this pool through a centralized intake. And it leverages centralized intake to focus on a single rich talent pool, internationally trained professionals. And this is probably one of the most important points in our presentation, is the way we work with employers through our collaboration and through our partnership here, is that we create a much wider variety for employers and a much bigger pool of opportunity for employers, as opposed to working with one organization that only works with a certain number of clients. We're offering employers a pool of 11 organizations that all work together, all adhere to specific standards and procedures that were put in place in order to ensure a standard of excellence that employers can expect when working with CASIP. But basically, the beauty of it is that they get access to a much richer, much wider, much bigger pool of candidates.
So, and also here, I'd just like to make the point when we're talking about competition and collaboration. One of the the crux of the problem when we look at employers as clients is an employer may come to your one agency and say, I need this job filled. and your one agency may not have the right clients for that employer. And if you can't satisfy the employer is less likely to come back to you because you weren't able to satisfy them. But if you're working with other organizations and as a collaboration, you are sharing that job with the other members and you trust them that they will respect the employer relationship and forward their clients to you to share with the employer, what happens in the end is that it might not be your client who gets hired. However, it's your employer still, and your employer does not care where that client came from as long as it's the right fit for that job. So when the employer is happy, whether it's your client or someone else's, they will come back to you, and that's going to keep your employer relationship. And that's really what this whole model addresses, is satisfying the employers and providing a larger number of opportunities to clients simply by sharing jobs.
Absolutely. So it all starts from recognizing employers as clients and providing more opportunities for them. So what are the ESN objectives? First of all, what we're trying to do is connect employers effectively to services and supports that would make it easier for them to hire newcomers. When employers come through our centralized intake, knowing the capacities and knowing the specialties of each of our organizations, we would know exactly who is the job developer of which organization, who will be responsible, so to speak, for that employer, because that organization or that program has the right expertise, and they will be able to better serve, to provide a better service to this employer. And again, I'd like to highlight through this wide variety of opportunities through the enlarged pool of 11 organizations. We also want to support employers to embed services, tools, and network connections into their HR practices. So basically, we're trying to share our best practice with their HR practices and create a seamless process for them so that they don't have to look for that specific organization that they want to work with. We create such a variety for them that through working with CASIP, they actually get access to 11 different organizations with different nature of services and different variety of services that they can incorporate into their HR practices. And we want to build the capacity of CASIP agencies to work collaboratively and coordinate services, which is also something that we cannot overlook, but this is probably the way into the future, that organizations who don't collaborate today will probably have to do it anyway in the future. So the sooner organizations start doing it, the better it is for them moving forward. We hear it from the funders, we hear it from the community, we hear it everywhere. So one of our goals here is to build the capacity and to build a foundation for our agencies moving into the future, having solid collaborative practices. So some examples of our joint initiatives. A lot of the bridging programs are actually partnerships between the different organizations. Canadian Workplace Communication also function in partnerships between different service providers. We do coordinated job development through our employer services network. And we're part of the mentoring partnership, which is a joint initiative through TRIAC, as we mentioned. We do job fairs together that incorporate a lot of our members, if not all of them. We do joint recruitment and networking events. We do marketing campaigns together, and we create marketing materials through our joint effort. And as we mentioned before, we do professional development on different levels for job developers and for management. And we do, of course, best practices and information sharing. And as a consortium, we constantly look into the future and we try to identify what is the next step, what is it we want to achieve, how do we progress into the future. So what are the benefits of our coordinated approach? We work together to increase employment opportunities for skilled immigrants, as we mentioned before. We coordinate employment services across the Greater Toronto Area, providing seamless service and increased capacity to provide and offer services. We anticipate and address employer needs. We improve service effectiveness through the sharing of best practices. We identify gaps in service and develop innovative initiatives. We share information on policy changes and funding opportunities to promote joint action. And we engage the broader network of peer organizations and associations in common action. We also collaborate and undertake initiatives to extend our ability to serve. So some statistics in terms of what has been achieved by our collaboration. Between, and this is just for 1 year, just to give you an example of some numbers, between April 1st, 2013 and March 31st, 2014, there were 195 new employers referred to CASIP Employer Services Network. This means employers who have not worked with any of our organizations before. These were the employers who got to CASIP Network through our marketing or through their own research or through our connections in the community, and were assigned to a particular job developer within the network to work on collecting their specific needs and requirements to then enter into our pool of qualified candidates and referred candidates for positions. There were 998 positions posted on our website during that period. And there were over about 1,400 internationally trained professionals with increased access to opportunities. So this is what Sadia mentioned before, that we're going to talk more about trust. These are the factors of success. And in today's environment, and it's not by chance that we started our conversation today from a call asking, is it possible to collaborate in competitive environments? And how do you actually force people? How do you engage people in this collaboration? Given the fact that the nature of our service and the nature of our organizations is very competitive. And I cannot say that it is all rosy and it is all very simple. In order to collaborate successfully in competitive environment, you have to work on building trust, and it doesn't happen overnight. This is a process that has been going on for a long time, and as you saw in the beginning, our collaboration started back in 1998, and it is important to take small steps and have realistic expectations, because respecting each other, understanding that some of the things have to happen together, other things respecting organizations, expertise, and specialty. Being open and honest around the table, supporting each other through different processes, building partnerships, applying for funding together. All of those opportunities created through CASIP actually contributed to building this trust, and we're continuing working on it. It's a work in progress. We cannot say that everything is now developed and we have 100% success of all the organizations. We are working very successfully together, but trust is something like marriage. You continue working on it as you go, and it's a process. It is something that we put a lot of attention to. We put a lot of effort into it, and one of the things that makes our collaboration successful is the involvement of different levels of management and different levels of the organizations in the collaboration process. So as I mentioned, one of the recent initiatives is the Collaborative Leaders for Collaborative Futures project. That is another initiative of CASIP, creating collaboration on the middle management level and actually training middle management on what it means to be a good collaborator, and equipping managers with theoretical knowledge, and also helping them work together on projects to create better collaborative skills, to create better partnerships in the future. So this is one thing. Our network of job developers is already an established network that has been working together for quite some time, And any new job developer who joins the network actually joins the whole process of how information is shared, how postings are shared, how clients are shared. So this is all built into the process. So I'll just start to give you an example of how collaboration works. So we have the network of job developers. Then we have the operational leadership group that is another layer of middle management that oversees the work of the job developers. On top of that, we have the strategic governance committee, which is more on the strategic direction and strategic level. And then we have the executive directors level who also meet and discuss and vision and develop strategies. And recently, there has been also an effort to create collaboration between the boards of directors, which is, I think, the most innovative thing that we have done so far. But from all the responses that we hear, it has been going very successfully, and it has benefited our network a lot.
So it's not mandatory that collaboration is as complicated as CASIP is. CASIP has been around for a pretty long period of time, but over time that trust has been built at various levels, and that reinforces all of the work that we do. So a job developer who meets monthly knows that their supervisor is also aware of CASIP and is supportive of that work, and that supervisor's senior manager is also involved in CASIP at another table and is supportive of the work, and the executive director of that organization is also involved and supportive. So those levels really build trust and build kind of the ability to collaborate among organizations and at different levels. But it doesn't have to be that complicated, but it does make it more fruitful and more robust. So even when individuals change out of one role to another, there's a larger system in place to support collaboration.
And in terms of quality, standards, procedures, and policies are the guiding principles on how our collaboration is so successful, because first of all the processes and policies and procedures are being developed together, and then each one around the table, each organization around the table feels the ownership and feels their role in developing those policies and procedures, so that then the standards of excellence can be maintained throughout the network, and this is a very important component as well. So just to sum up, some of the lessons learned by us along the way were that we need to clearly delineate and share stakeholder roles and responsibilities. We need to know who is doing what and why each level of the organization is doing what they're doing within the network. We need to formalize operations through protocols and partnership agreements, and we have quite a few of them, but this is something that works, and this is something that makes people committed and helps people better understand what the requirements are that they need to adhere to. Centralized training and professional development among the staff and team that is collaborating. We touched upon that. Cultivate team spirit. Integrate responsibilities into performance measurement and job descriptions. And again, this is something that we agreed upon. It's not something set in stone. If it doesn't work for your network, it doesn't have to be that way. But we just made that decision, and it's working, because this, again, it creates more liability in terms of the different levels of the organization. That CASIP is something that is also being measured by the organizations, and it creates more motivation in terms of performing work that has to do with CASIP. And of course, we continuously seek to improve operations. So the next steps, we're currently in the process of developing a toolkit for replication of the employer services model, which is almost finalized. We're exploring opportunities for expansion of the existing model and incorporating more organizations so that their clients can benefit from it. And if you'd like to learn more and or to reach us over email, through our website, or through our hotline. I will just leave this information on the screen.
On Twitter.
And we're, oh, sorry, and we're also on Twitter. Thank you very much, and we will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Irene and Sadia. We had a really engaged audience during this presentation, and a number of very good questions came in. So thankfully we have some time for these questions. So the first one is relating to the centralized website. How did you overcome privacy issues on the website in terms of sharing resumes, etc.? Client information.
We don't actually share resumes on the website.
Okay.
The principal purpose of the website is to share the job posting, and if a job developer has a client that's suitable for one of those positions, they forward the resume via email to the employer job developer, to the employer contact.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, what kind of database or system do you have to support the coordination? So I think you talked a little bit about it, but the follow-up to that is, are all job developers, job seekers, and employers, can they all access the job listings online?
So no, it's an internal database. Job developers are given a login and password to access, and there is a public link to jobs where, which is what we share, with our job developers. We share that with their colleagues and with their clients, so that anybody can go in and look at those jobs. But if there's no information on how to apply there, you have to come back to the agency, get information about how they apply, and go through that whole process.
Okay. Kind of bringing it back to the, I guess, bigger picture, another question is, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced with the network, the consortium, and how did you overcome them?
I guess one thing with collaboration is that there is going to be flux, right? Organizations go through their own life cycle, and so different organizations are able to commit more or less depending on where they are in their own life cycle, and so within the collaboration there has to be an understanding about that and an acceptance of that. So we have protocols, we have targets, each of our individual organizations have targets, and we're mindful of that, but at the same time, if there are issues going on because an organization is having funding issues or staffing issues or anything like that, obviously you need to be understanding of that as well.
I think one of the things that actually helps us overcome potential challenges is the fact that we have a CASIP project manager, a person who helps coordinate and who helps address those upcoming needs. If any organization is dealing with a tight situation or anything that needs to be addressed at a certain point of time, it's good to have a neutral person who can resolve problems or who can address these problems on a regular basis. Another challenge that might come up, and we are facing it now, is we're in a more of an expansion stage when we're trying to incorporate more of the other organizations or even groups who deal with newcomers to benefit from our employer services network. Organizations who are not necessarily in the employment sector, but who are trying to take advantage of being part of the network for the sake of creating more opportunities for their newcomer clients. One of the challenges here is they might not have the employment capacity within their organization, so their resumes, as an example, might not be up to the standard that was developed by CASIP. So we're currently addressing that and thinking about how we can work together with those, let's say, settlement organizations who do not have employment support but would like to benefit from our network. So we're currently discussing and thinking about those protocols, how to work with organizations who are not in employment.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll just add, within the collaboration, we have brought on 3 new members about 2 years ago, And so what we've learned is that it takes time, right? Because the collaboration is so reliant on trust and an understanding of protocols. So we get a lot of organizations approaching us asking to join, but what we've learned is that we have to take time when we bring new organizations on board to make sure they're fully integrated before we can take on more. We'll stop there on the challenge.
No, that's a lot of really good information. Thank you both. The next question is regarding establishing new employer relationships. So we have a participant who asked if there's a structure or protocol for a specific agency contacting an employer in the case of establishing a new relationship. And then also, are you maintaining an employer database accessible to all of the service providers? So is that one of the, I guess, one of the functions with that database?
So I guess there's the approach with employers is twofold. Individually, organizations work with employers, and if they receive a job and they are not able to fill it from their own client pool, they might share that with CASIP and it gets posted to the site. And that's an employer who comes onto the network through one of the member organizations. The other side of it is when employers are looking to fill positions and they're perhaps looking for skilled immigrant candidates and they approach CASIP directly through one form or another. And then what I would do as a project manager is I'll do a preliminary kind of overview of that employer, see what their needs are, what they're looking for, and then try to make a match with one of the job developers on our network and basically connect that employer to that job developer. That job developer will hold employer relationship with CASIP, and any opportunities or events or anything that are, that come out of that relationship would be shared with CASIP immediately. So it's not that they go first to that person's agency. Because of the CASIP referral, they would be open to CASIP, all CASIP agencies right away, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And we had a question that came in almost simultaneously from two different participants here. So it was in referral to that slide you had. I think it listed the number of job postings in the last fiscal year, as well as I think new employer connections. And they were both asking if you knew how many of those 998 positions were filled with clients.
We're just waiting for that question. That's one of the most popular questions we get. So the short answer to that is number of hires is not one of the targets that is measured on the current project that we have with CIC. So what gets measured is what we have numbers for, and because it's not measured, we don't have accurate numbers for that. We do regularly have hires either through events or through the job sharing website, but it's not tracked formally because it's not one of our reportable targets.
Okay, thanks. Wow, we have a number of this. I think this is the most questions we've ever received in any of our webinars coming in. So moving along to the next one. Now, as you mentioned, CASIP's, you started a number of years ago. I think it was back in 1998. Would you be able to define what the actual time frame for the development phase was at all?
So the development of the Employer Services Network? I think it started back in about, I'm just ballparking because this was before my time, but 2007-ish, 2008. So we've probably been at it about 7 years or so.
Okay.
And
great.
I mentioned that the funding question, we were asked earlier about funding, that the ESN has existed without funding as well. When there wasn't funding, the members wish to continue the collaboration, but we have been fortunate over the last many years to have funding for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Funder-driven.
Yeah.
And we have a participant asking how many representatives from each of the 11 organizations are involved in the consortium?
Well, I don't have the exact number, but as I said, the involvement is on all the different levels. We have 22 job developers in the Job Developers Network. We have about probably 11 representatives on the Operational Leadership Committee, the Operational Leadership Group. It's about 1 representative per organization, about the same number for the senior representation, and all the executive directors.
Each member organization has at least 2 roughly 2 job developers on the network. So it's a handful of people in each organization.
Okay, and I think this is a really interesting question in terms of adaptability of the model. Someone has asked, do you know if the model has been used for other populations, such as people with disabilities?
Not yet, not this model, but this is why we're kind of getting the word out about the model, because it certainly has the potential to be adapted to different populations. But we're in early stages of dissemination, so we're absolutely happy to hear from people who want to learn more and want to think about adapting it to others.
Okay, thanks. Gosh, I'm just scanning through the rest of the questions here. Maybe I'll just finish off with this one last question about just the meetings amongst the members of CASIP. Are you doing monthly meetings, or how often do you meet, and are you able to meet in person? I know you're a collaboration of Greater Toronto Area agencies, or do you do some of the meetings virtually?
So the job developers meet monthly, and they meet in person. And of course, there's also a lot of correspondence and communication that's happening between the job developers online and over the phone. In terms of the operational leadership group, I think we have bi-monthly, and then it's also in person. We will sometimes do a conference call, but it depends. We usually try to meet in person, and this is a very important component also of the relationship building and trust building so that people know each other. The strategic governance.
Quarterly, maybe quarterly. Strategic group also meets quarterly and also in person. We tend to put some mileage every month because we do tend to meet in person. We've found it to be very important for the trust building and also for having all those side conversations that you wouldn't have on a teleconference, right, when everybody's looking at their email and stuff. So.
Okay, I think we're going to end it there. We did manage to get through most of the questions. So we are almost out of time for today. So Irene and Sadia, I want to thank you again for the presentation today, and I also want to thank all of you out there for attending. The session was recorded, and we will post the video of the presentation on our website and send you the link in an email within the next week. I just want to take a really quick opportunity to mention, for those of you that didn't see it in last week's blast that we sent out, we have uploaded a new partnership and collaboration resource that's available on the Centre's website, and I think it's fitting to mention that given the discussions in the presentation today. So you can access that in the Knowledge Clearinghouse on the Centre's website. It's the most recently uploaded resource, and I think I'll also link to it in the email, the follow-up email that goes out to all of you attending the webinar. So as always, we welcome your input and feedback, and we would also appreciate any suggestions you have for future webinar topics. When you leave the webinar, you will be asked to complete a short survey. We would really appreciate it if you took a minute or two to share your thoughts, as your feedback will help us immensely in planning future events. And just want to mention the webinar that you see on your screen here. On March 31st, we're going to welcome Christine Buchanan of Open Door Group to deliver a 2-hour training and overview of disability-related employment needs assessments, or DRANA, which are key in being able to efficiently and effectively support a client who identifies or presents as having a disability and may require disability-related service and or supports in order to achieve labor market attachment. So Christine will present career practitioners with an overview of the tool as well as training on how to use it. And those who participate in the webinar will be provided rights to the tool for use within their organization. Webinar information as well as the registration link are available on the Centre's website at cfeebc.org. So that ends our event today. On behalf of Irene and Sadia in Toronto and my colleagues Susanna and Sean here at the Centre, thanks for participating in today's discussion and have a great afternoon.